Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a story that honestly feels like a Hollywood thriller. It's the wild, dramatic narrative of how a deeply idealistic mission to save a billion lives accidentally set off a massive youth epidemic and ultimately ended in a multi-billion-dollar deal with the devil. Picture this. Two ambitious design students set out to absolutely destroy the traditional cigarette industry, right? Only to find themselves turning into the very thing they swore to defeat. It is a stunning look at what happens when Silicon Valley's move fast and break things ethos collides with public health. Let's get into it.
Just listen to this quote from a congressional hearing. You initially think you're saving the world, and then all of a sudden, people are saying, no, you're the devil. That perfectly captures the absolute whiplash experienced by Juul's founders Adam Bowen and James Monsies. I mean, they went from being celebrated, visionary Stanford design students to literally facing the fury of the United States Congress. And here's the thing, they didn't start out wanting to hurt anyone. Actually, the whole idea was born during their own late-night study sessions. They were smokers themselves, and they just wondered, hey, can we use modern technology to strip away the deadly parts of smoking, but keep the ritual we actually enjoy? So tracing it back, Adam and James meet in 2004. By 2007, they scraped together a modest $400,000 in startup funding. And in 2009, they launched their first attempt to recreate that smoking ritual. They called it the plume. But, well, the plume was a disaster. It was this incredibly complicated butane-fueled failure. It was clunky, it actually burned people occasionally, and frankly, it just didn't deliver the hit that smokers craved. Total flop. But out of the ashes of that spectacular failure came a discovery that would literally change the world.
While they were trying to figure out how to fix this failed product, Adam and James stumbled onto a secret. They found abandoned big tobacco research all the way from the 1950s, and this research proved something absolutely crucial. Heating tobacco into a vapor, instead of burning it completely, significantly reduced the toxic chemicals. It was just way safer. So you might be asking, why didn't big tobacco use it? Well, introducing a safer cigarette meant legally and socially admitting that their main product was deadly. So they buried the research to protect their empire. Adam and James, they decided to pick up exactly where big tobacco left off.
Part 1. Reinventing the cigarette.
The failure of their first device forced them to completely reimagine what an e-cigarette could even be. They brought that classic tech mindset directly to tobacco. And the scientific breakthrough that made it all click? Nicotine salts. See, pure nicotine is naturally bitter and super harsh on the throat. But Adam found some old tobacco industry research on these salts. By using them, they could chemically dampen that natural bitterness. That meant they could deliver a much smoother, highly concentrated dose of nicotine and easily mask it with pleasant flavors like mango or creme brulee. This was the magic bullet. It finally matched the addictive kick of a real cigarette, but without the awful throat burn.
And the design was a total game changer. Early e-cigarettes, they were massive, clunky, tacky, just kind of intimidating. But Juul, it was gorgeous. A sleek, minimalist two-part system, just a battery body and a snap-in pod. People instantly started calling it the iPhone of e-cigarettes. Because of that intuitive design, it suddenly became incredibly socially acceptable. It was concealable, wildly appealing, and crucially, it didn't look anything like smoking. It looked like a piece of high-end tech.
But to change the world, they had to sell it. In 2016, they launched an absolute bombshell of a campaign. Because Juul didn't actually contain raw tobacco leaf, they brilliantly and tragically managed to sidestep strict FDA tobacco advertising regulations. They brought in lifestyle influencers. They launched this massive neon-drenched Vaporized campaign with dancing millennials. They hosted glamorous parties, giving the devices away for free just to get people hooked. There were even reports of ads showing up on youth networks like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. They basically took Big Tobacco's old-school lifestyle playbook, gave it a modern spin, and caught the attention of a massive, completely non-smoking demographic.
The financial payoff? Absolutely breathtaking. $10 billion. That was their valuation shortly after this popularity explosion. To put that into perspective for you, Juul hit that $10 billion mark 4 times faster than Facebook did. 4 times. Word of mouth spread their cool factor like wildfire. They weren't just a successful startup anymore. They were a full-blown cultural phenomenon.
Part 2. The Teenage Epidemic.
Here's where things took a really dark turn. The exact same features that made Juul an incredible tool for helping adult smokers quit combustibles, they made it an irresistible magnet for teenagers. And this stat is why it was so incredibly dangerous. One single Juul pod contained roughly the same amount of nicotine as an entire pack of 20 traditional cigarettes. But here's the catch. Unlike a cigarette, which physically burns down to the filter to tell you that you're done, a Juul has no natural stop signal. You just keep hitting it until the pod is empty. Kids were hiding these tiny USB-looking devices in their hands, hitting them right in the middle of math class, and unknowingly chain-smoking the equivalent of multiple packs a day.
The scale of the crisis was just terrifying, and it happened so fast. We're talking 80% surge in high school vaping and a 60% surge in middle schools. Roughly 3 million students got hooked on nicotine. 1 in every 5 high schoolers was vaping. It was a full-blown epidemic, and honestly, it completely blindsided the FDA, parents, teachers, everyone.
The emotional toll of this is really best captured by the kids themselves. They felt profoundly deceived. One teenager put it like this: "I was told it was completely harmless and it was basically inhaling water vapor. My generation got so screwed." And that was the thing. So many of them genuinely believed the playground rumors that they were just puffing on flavored water vapor. By the time they realized how powerful those nicotine salts were, the physical addiction was already locked in. They felt like their chance to be the first totally smoke-free generation had just been stolen from them, all hidden behind the slick promise of harmless tech.
Part 3. The Fall and the Tragic Irony. Because look, that kind of hypergrowth, it's never sustainable. The inevitable crash was sparked by a perfect storm. In 2019, a massive health panic struck. Teenagers across the US started ending up in the ER with severe, mysterious lung illnesses. It was horrifying. Now, to be clear, the data eventually showed that these acute hospitalizations were mostly linked to black market THC pods cut with a dangerous chemical called vitamin E acetate. But Juul was the undisputed king of vaping. Their name was synonymous with the act itself, so their high profile made them the ultimate scapegoat, the absolute public face of the tragedy. It triggered massive CDC warnings and an absolute avalanche of state lawsuits.
And right in the middle of this intense vulnerability, we get the ultimate irony. Enter Altria. They are the parent company of Marlboro, the biggest cigarette manufacturer in the US. They were losing customers left and right to Juul, and they saw the writing on the wall. This was an existential threat. So their strategy became pretty simple. If you can't beat them, buy them.
The financials of this deal are just mind-blowing. In December 2018, Altria drops $12.8 billion for a 35% stake. That valued Juul at an astronomical $38 billion. Practically overnight, Adam and James became billionaires. But the actual employees, the staff on the ground who joined to save lives, they were completely crushed. The original dream was dead. They realized they had just sold out to big tobacco, literally the very enemy they built their company to destroy.
From that peak, the fall was just brutal. The FDA demanded they pull their products from shelves, a massive blow they've spent years appealing. They were forced to settle thousands of lawsuits to the tune of nearly $3 billion. And remember that soaring $38 billion valuation? It plummeted 95%, wiping out billions in wealth and leaving the company at a fraction of its former glory. It's truly one of the most stunning financial collapses in modern corporate history.
Today, the public health community is totally split on Juul's legacy, and we have to look at both realities impartially. On one hand, yes, Juul genuinely helped thousands, maybe even millions of adult smokers transition away from highly toxic, cancer-causing combustible cigarettes. That is a fact. But on the other hand, their aggressive marketing and incredibly slick product design accidentally hooked millions of non-smoking youth on a highly addictive substance, birthing a brand new generation of nicotine dependency.
Which brings us to this final, lingering thought. For decades, big tobacco searched for a way to create a safer but equally addictive product. And as their older customers passed away, they desperately needed new, young replacement smokers. Well, Juul handed them the exact technology for the former and tragically supplied the exact demographic for the latter. So you really have to ask yourself, did a company built to destroy big tobacco ultimately just do their dirty work for them? Think about that as we wrap up this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next one.